The grand mahogany doors of the Thompson mansion loomed before Emma Williams, their intricate carvings a testament to the wealth and power that lay beyond. She took a deep breath, her fingers tightening around the handle of her worn suitcase, the weight of her hopes and dreams far heavier than any physical luggage. Emma stood at the threshold of what she hoped would be a new chapter in her life. At 28, she had already weathered more storms than most people face in a lifetime. The loss of her parents in a car accident 3 years ago had left her adrift, forcing her to abandon her college studies and take on a series of menial jobs to survive. But Emma was nothing if not resilient, and she saw this opportunity as a housekeeper at the Thompson mansion as a chance to rebuild her life. The mansion itself was a marvel of modern architecture, a sprawling testament to success and ambition. Its sleek lines and floor-to-ceiling windows contrasted sharply with the lush, meticulously manicured gardens that surrounded it. As Emma approached the entrance, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of intimidation. This world of opulence and perfection was so far removed from her own modest upbringing. The door swung open before she could knock, revealing David Thompson himself. At 45, he cut an imposing figure, tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, with steel-grey eyes that seemed to pierce right through her. "Ms. Williams, I presume," he said, his voice clipped and businesslike. "You're 2 minutes early." "Good, I detest tardiness." Emma nodded, trying to keep her voice steady as she replied, "Yes, Mr. Thompson, thank you for considering my application." David ushered her inside, and Emma's eyes widened as she took in the grandeur of the foyer. Marble floors gleamed beneath her feet, and a crystal chandelier cast prismatic light across the space. "This house," David began, his tone taking on a hint of pride, "is more than just a home. It's a symbol of everything I've achieved. Every surface, every object, every detail reflects the success I've built through years of hard work and uncompromising standards." He turned to face Emma, his gaze intense. "If you want this job, Ms. Williams, you must understand that I expect nothing less than perfection. This house must be maintained to the highest standards at all times. Can you commit to that?" Emma straightened her shoulders, meeting David's gaze with determination. "Yes, Mr. Thompson. I assure you that I'm not only committed to meeting your standards but exceeding them." A ghost of a smile flickered across David's face, gone so quickly Emma wasn't sure she'd seen it at all. "Very well. Let's proceed with the interview, shall we?" As they walked through the mansion, Emma marveled at the seamless blend of classic and contemporary design. Each room they passed was a masterpiece of interior decoration, from the stately library with its floor-to-ceiling bookshelves to the state-of-the-art kitchen that gleamed with stainless steel appliances. David led her to a sunlit study, gesturing for her to take a seat in front of a massive oak desk. Emma perched on the edge of the leather chair, her back straight, hands folded neatly in her lap. "Now, Ms. Williams," David began, settling into his own chair, "tell me why I should entrust my home to you. What makes you qualified for this position?" Emma took a deep breath, calling upon the strength that had seen her through the hardest times of her life. "Mr. Thompson, I may not have the most extensive experience, but what I lack in years, I make up for in dedication and attention to detail. I'm a quick learner, adaptable, and I take pride in my work. I understand the importance of maintaining a home of this caliber, and I'm prepared to put in whatever effort is necessary to ensure it meets your standards." David leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Impressive words, Ms. Williams. But I've heard similar promises before. What makes you different?" Emma felt a spark of determination ignite within her. "I'm not just looking for a job, Mr. Thompson. I'm looking for a purpose. I've faced significant challenges in my life, and they've taught me the value of perseverance and the importance of seizing opportunities. If you give me this chance, I promise you won't regret it." For a moment, David said nothing, his piercing gaze seeming to search for any hint of insincerity in Emma's words. Finally, he nodded. "Very well, Ms. Williams. I'm willing to give you a trial period, but remember, in this house, there are no second chances. One mistake, one lapse in judgment, and you'll be looking for employment elsewhere. Is that understood?" Emma nodded, a mix of relief and anxiety washing over her. "Yes, Mr. Thompson. I understand completely." As David began to outline the specifics of the job, Emma's mind raced with the possibilities that lay before her. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope for the future. This was more than just a job. It was a chance to prove to herself and the world that she was capable of greatness. Little did Emma know that her journey at the Thompson mansion would test her in ways she could never have imagined, challenging not only her skills but her very sense of self. As she listened to David's instructions, she steeled herself for the task ahead, unaware of the twists and turns her path would take, or the profound impact this experience would have on her life. As the interview progressed, Emma found herself navigating an intricate maze of questions, each one more challenging than the last. David Thompson's piercing gaze never wavered as he probed into every aspect of her background, skills, and character. "Tell me, Ms. Williams," David said, leaning forward slightly, "how do you handle pressure? This isn't just any household. The standards here are exacting." And Emma took a deep breath, willing her voice to remain steady. "I thrive under pressure, Mr. Thompson. In my experience, challenges are opportunities for growth. I've faced numerous difficult situations in my life, and each one has only made me stronger and more determined." David's eyebrow arched slightly. Impressive words. "But let me be clear, this house isn't just a home. It's a reflection of my success, my reputation. Every speck of dust, every misplaced item, could potentially impact my business relationships. Are you prepared for that level of responsibility?" The weight of his words settled heavily on Emma's shoulders. She realized that this job was about more than just cleaning and organizing. It was about upholding an image, a lifestyle that was foreign to her. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was she truly up to this task? But then, Emma thought of all she had overcome: the loss of her parents, the financial struggles, the countless nights wondering if she'd ever find her place in the world. If she could survive all that, surely she could handle this. "Mr. Thompson," she began, her voice growing stronger with each word, "I understand the importance of what you're asking. Your home isn't just a space, it's a statement. I assure you, I'm not just prepared for this responsibility, I welcome it. I will treat every task, no matter how small, with the utmost care and attention to detail." David studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he stood abruptly. "Walk with me, Ms. Williams." Emma followed him out of the study, her heart pounding. They moved through the house, David pointing out various features and explaining their significance. In the grand living room, he paused before a stunning abstract painting. "This piece," he said, "is worth more than what most people earn in a decade, but its value goes beyond money. It's a conversation starter, a statement piece that has sealed many business deals. How would you ensure its preservation while making it accessible to guests?" Emma considered carefully before answering. "I would ensure it's dusted daily with a soft electrostatic cloth to avoid any damage. The room's humidity and temperature would need to be carefully monitored and controlled. And I'd make sure that any furniture near it is arranged to allow viewing without risking accidental contact." David nodded, seemingly satisfied. They continued through the house, each room presenting new challenges and questions. In the kitchen, he quizzed her on her knowledge of cleaning different surfaces. In the home office, he stressed the importance of maintaining order without disturbing his work materials. As they reached the end of the tour, standing once again in the grand foyer, David turned to Emma. "Ms. Williams, I won't sugarcoat this. The job I'm offering is demanding, often thankless, and requires an exceptional level of commitment. There will be late nights, early mornings, and times when you'll need to drop everything to address an urgent matter. Are you truly prepared for that?" Emma met his gaze, her resolve stronger than ever. "Mr. Thompson, I understand the demands of this position, and I'm ready to meet them head on. I'm not just looking for a job, I'm looking for a chance to prove myself, to be part of something greater. I promise you, if you give me this opportunity, I will dedicate myself fully to maintaining the impeccable standards of your home." For the first time since their meeting began, a hint of approval flickered in David's eyes. "Very well, Ms. Williams. You'll start tomorrow, 6 a.m. sharp. Grace, my wife, will show you the ropes. Remember, in this house, there's no room for mistakes. Don't make me regret this decision." As Emma left the mansion that evening, a mix of excitement and trepidation swirled within her. She had secured the job, but she knew the real challenge was just beginning. As she looked back at the imposing structure, now silhouetted against the setting sun, she made a silent promise to herself. She would not just survive in this new world, she would thrive. Little did Emma know that this job would test her in ways she could never have imagined, challenging not just her skills, but her values, her resilience, and her understanding of success. As she walked away, the weight of opportunity and expectation heavy on her shoulders, the next chapter of her life was about to unfold. The next morning, Emma arrived at the Thompson mansion precisely at 5:55 a.m., her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The pre-dawn air was crisp, and the sprawling grounds were eerily quiet. As she approached the imposing front door, it swung open, revealing a woman Emma hadn't met before. "You must be Emma," the woman said, her warm smile a stark contrast to David's stern demeanor. "I'm Grace Thompson. Welcome to our home." Emma felt an immediate sense of relief wash over her. Grace's kind eyes and gentle voice put her at ease, a welcome change from the intensity of yesterday's interview. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," Emma replied, returning the smile. "I'm looking forward to starting my duties." Grace ushered her inside, closing the door softly behind them. "Please call me Grace now. Let's get you settled in and start your orientation. David has already left for an early meeting, so we have some time to go through everything without interruption." As they moved through the house, Grace provided a more detailed tour than David had given. She pointed out the specific cleaning products to use on different surfaces, explained the complex scheduling of various tasks, and shared insights into the preferences of both herself and David. "The library is David's sanctuary," Grace explained as they entered a vast room lined with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. "He likes it dusted and vacuumed every morning before he starts his day. Be sure to return any books exactly where you found them. David has a meticulous organization system." Emma nodded, taking mental notes. "I'll make sure it's perfect every morning," she assured Grace. As they continued through the house, Emma began to realize the true scope of her responsibilities. Each room seemed to have its own set of rules and requirements, from the specific way the throw pillows should be arranged in the living room to the exact temperature at which the wine cellar should be maintained. "I know it seems overwhelming," Grace said, noticing Emma's furrowed brow, "but you'll get the hang of it. Just take it one task at a time." Emma appreciated Grace's encouragement. "Thank you. I'm determined to learn everything and do my best." They made their way to the kitchen, where Grace showed Emma how to use the high-end appliances and where to find all the necessary supplies. "David is particular about his morning coffee," Grace explained. "He likes it ready at exactly 7:30 a.m., using these specific beans, ground fresh each morning." As the morning progressed, Emma's head spun with all the information, but she was grateful for Grace's patient guidance. When they reached the garden, Grace's eyes lit up. "This is my favorite part of the house," she said, leading Emma through a maze of meticulously manicured hedges and vibrant flower beds. "David values the garden highly. It's often where he entertains important guests. But to me, it's a place of peace and beauty." Emma could see why. The garden was a masterpiece of landscape design, with fountains, statues, and hidden nooks creating an atmosphere of tranquil elegance. "I'll make sure it's always pristine," Emma promised, already envisioning the care she'd put into maintaining this oasis. As they completed the tour, Grace turned to Emma with a kind but serious expression. "Emma, I want you to know that while David can be demanding, he's not unreasonable. He expects the best because he gives his best. If you show the same dedication to your work here, you'll do well." Emma nodded, grateful for the insight. "I understand, and I'm ready for the challenge. Thank you for all your help, Grace." With the orientation complete, Emma dove into her duties. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. She quickly learned that maintaining the Thompson mansion was no small feat. Each day brought new challenges, from ensuring the marble floors in the foyer gleamed to perfection to arranging fresh flowers throughout the house. David's exacting standards meant that even the smallest details couldn't be overlooked. Emma found herself triple-checking every task, always aware that a single misplaced item or overlooked dust bunny could incur David's displeasure. Despite the pressure, Emma found herself thriving. The structured routine and clear expectations gave her a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. And Grace's continued support and occasional words of encouragement helped her navigate the more difficult moments. One morning, about a week into her new role, Emma was polishing the silver in the dining room when David entered unexpectedly. She froze, her heart pounding as he scrutinized her work. After what felt like an eternity, he gave a curt nod. "Acceptable," he said, before turning on his heel and leaving the room. Emma let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding, coming from David. Acceptable felt like high praise indeed. As the days turned into weeks, Emma settled into her role. She began to anticipate the needs of the household, taking pride in having everything running smoothly before either David or Grace had to ask. The mansion, which had initially felt like an intimidating labyrinth, was becoming familiar territory. Yet, even as she grew more comfortable in her duties, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the Thompson household than met the eye. The contrast between David's cold efficiency and Grace's warmth was stark, and Emma often wondered about the dynamics of their relationship. But such thoughts were quickly pushed aside by the never-ending list of tasks that demanded her attention. For now, Emma was content to focus on her work, determined to prove that David's decision to hire her had been the right one. As she finished her duties one evening, taking one last look around to ensure everything was in its place, Emma allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. She was no longer just surviving, she was beginning to thrive. Little did she know that the true tests of her resilience and character were yet to come. As weeks turned into months, Emma found herself settling into a comfortable rhythm at the Thompson mansion. The initial overwhelming feeling had given way to a sense of competence and purpose. Yet, it was her growing friendship with Grace that truly began to make the imposing house feel like a home. One crisp autumn morning, Emma was tending to the garden when Grace joined her, a steaming mug of tea in each hand. "I thought you might like a break," Grace said, offering one of the mugs to Emma with a warm smile. "Thank you," Emma replied gratefully, inhaling the soothing aroma of chamomile. They sat together on a nearby bench, overlooking the meticulously manicured lawn. "You've been doing wonderfully," Emma Grace said, her eyes twinkling. "I don't think I've ever seen the house run so smoothly." Emma felt a surge of pride at the compliment. "I'm glad to hear that. I've been trying my best to meet Mr. Thompson's standards." Grace's expression softened slightly. David can be intense, but he appreciates dedication, even if he doesn't always show it. There was a moment of comfortable silence as they sipped their tea. Then, Grace spoke again, her voice tinged with a hint of nostalgia. "You know, this house wasn't always so perfect." Emma looked at her curiously, encouraging her to continue. "When David and I first moved in, it was a beautiful mess," Grace said, chuckling at the memory. "We were young, just starting out. The house was too big for us, really, but David had grand plans. We used to spend weekends painting rooms ourselves, arguing over color schemes, and laughing when we got more paint on each other than on the walls." Emma tried to imagine a younger, more carefree version of the stern businessman she knew. It was difficult to reconcile. Grace continued, her gaze distant. As David's business grew, so did his vision for the house. It became less of a home and more of a statement. "Don't get me wrong, I'm proud of what he's achieved, but sometimes I miss those early days when it was just us, building our dreams together." Emma felt a pang of sympathy for Grace. "It must have been quite a journey," she said softly. Grace nodded, turning to Emma with a wistful smile. "It has been. And that's why I'm so glad you're here. Emma, you've brought a fresh energy to this place. It reminds me of what I've always wanted this house to be, not just a showcase, but a warm, welcoming home." From that day on, Emma and Grace's bond deepened. They would often find moments to chat as Emma went about her duties, sharing stories and laughter. Grace began to open up more about her life, her dreams, and her relationship with David. "I've always believed that a home should be filled with love and laughter," Grace confided one afternoon as they arranged flowers in the sunroom. "Material things are nice, but they're meaningless without the warmth of human connection." Emma nodded in agreement, thinking of her own modest upbringing. "My parents always said that home is where the heart is," she said, a touch of sadness in her voice as she remembered them. Grace reached out and squeezed Emma's hand gently. "They sound like wise people. I'm sure they'd be proud of you." As their friendship grew, Emma began to see the house through Grace's eyes. Beyond the polished surfaces and valuable artifacts, she saw the memories embedded in every room. The kitchen where Grace had attempted her first souffle. The living room where she and David had danced on their anniversary. The guest room that Grace hoped would one day belong to a child. One evening, as Emma was finishing up her tasks, she found Grace in the library, looking through an old photo album. Grace beckoned her over, patting the seat beside her on the plush leather sofa. "Look at this," Grace said, pointing to a photograph of a much younger version of herself and David. They were standing in front of the mansion, paint splattered and grinning widely. "This was the day we finished painting the exterior. We were exhausted, but so proud." Emma studied the photo, struck by the joy radiating from both Grace and David. It was a stark contrast to the more reserved couple she knew now. "What changed?" Emma asked softly, immediately regretting her boldness, but Grace didn't seem offended. "Success, I suppose," Grace replied thoughtfully. "As David's business grew, so did the pressure he put on himself, and on everything around him, including the house. And me," she sighed, closing the album gently. "Don't get me wrong, I'm incredibly proud of what he's achieved, but sometimes I worry about the cost." Emma listened, feeling privileged to be trusted with such personal reflections. She began to understand the complex dynamics at play in the Thompson household, the tension between David's drive for perfection and Grace's desire for warmth and connection. As the weeks passed, Emma found herself not just maintaining the house, but actively contributing to the atmosphere Grace yearned for. She started leaving little touches around the house, a vase of freshly cut flowers from the garden on David's desk, Grace's favorite scented candle lit in the living room in the evenings, a plate of homemade cookies in the kitchen on Sunday afternoons. Grace noticed these small gestures and expressed her appreciation. "You understand, don't you?" she said one day, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "You see that a home is more than just a perfect facade. It's about creating a space where people feel loved and cherished." Emma nodded, feeling a lump in her throat. "I do understand," she replied softly, "and I want to help make this house feel like the home you've always dreamed of." Grace pulled her into a warm hug. "You already are, dear, more than you know." As Emma reciprocated the embrace, she realized that she had found more than just a job at the Thompson mansion. She had found a friend, a confidante, and a place where she could make a real difference. The challenges of maintaining David's exacting standards were still there, but now they were balanced by the joy of contributing to the warmth and love that Grace so deeply valued. Little did Emma know that this deepening bond with Grace would soon be tested, as the delicate balance of the Thompson household was about to face its greatest challenge yet. As autumn gave way to winter, the Thompson mansion transformed into a showcase of holiday splendor. Emma worked tirelessly to bring Grace's vision of a warm, inviting home to life, even as she maintained David's exacting standards. The delicate balance she had struck, however, was about to be severely tested. One frosty morning, Emma was carefully hanging garlands along the grand staircase when David's voice boomed from the foyer, sharp with displeasure. "Ms. Williams, what is the meaning of this?" Emma turned, her heart racing, to find David glowering at the Christmas tree she had spent hours decorating the night before. "I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson," she began, descending the stairs. "Is something wrong with the tree?" David's eyes narrowed. "This garish display is entirely inappropriate for the charity gala we're hosting next week. I expect elegance and sophistication, not this department store spectacle." Emma felt a flush of embarrassment and frustration. She had followed Grace's instructions to the letter, creating a tree that radiated warmth and holiday cheer. But before she could explain, Grace appeared, drawn by the commotion. "David, darling," Grace interjected, her voice soothing. "I asked Emma to decorate the tree this way. I thought it would create a festive atmosphere for the gala." David turned his stern gaze to his wife. "Grace, you know how important this event is. We can't afford to look anything less than perfect." As the couple continued their tense discussion, Emma retreated to the kitchen, her mind whirling. This wasn't the first time she had been caught between David's demand for perfection and Grace's desire for a warmer, more inviting home, but it was certainly the most public confrontation yet. Over the next few weeks, similar incidents became more frequent. David's criticism grew harsher, extending beyond Emma's work to encompass Grace's decisions as well. The tension in the household was palpable, and Emma often found herself walking on eggshells, trying to anticipate and prevent conflicts. One particularly stressful evening, after David had berated Emma for what he deemed subpar polishing of the silver, Grace found her in the laundry room, fighting back tears of frustration. "Oh, Emma," Grace said softly, pulling her into a comforting hug. "I'm so sorry. David is under a lot of pressure with this new business deal, but that's no excuse for how he's been acting." Emma wiped her eyes, grateful for Grace's understanding. "I just wish I could do better, meet his standards somehow." Grace shook her head, a hint of steel in her gentle voice. "You're doing wonderfully, Emma. The problem isn't you. It's David's impossible expectations, and it's time I had a serious talk with him about it." True to her word, Grace confronted David that very night. Emma couldn't help but overhear their heated discussion from her quarters. "David, this has to stop." Grace's voice carried, uncharacteristically firm. "Your obsession with perfection is making this house unbearable. Emma is doing an exceptional job, and your constant criticism is unfair and demoralizing." "Unfair?" David's voice rose. "What's unfair is settling for mediocrity when excellence is within reach. This house represents everything I've worked for, everything I am." "And what about what I am?" Grace retorted, her voice breaking slightly. "What about the home we dreamed of building together? A place of love and warmth, not just a cold, perfect showpiece." The argument continued, with Emma listening anxiously, torn between concern for Grace and fear for her own position. When silence finally fell, Emma's nerves were frayed to the breaking point. The next morning, the atmosphere in the mansion was thick with unresolved tension. David left early for work without a word, while Grace seemed withdrawn and sad. Emma went about her duties with extra care, desperate to avoid triggering another outburst. As she dusted the library shelves, Emma's mind raced. She cared deeply for Grace and appreciated the warmth and friendship she had found in this job. But David's increasing hostility made her question whether she could continue working in such a stressful environment. Just as Emma was considering whether she should start looking for another position, Grace entered the library, her face etched with determination. "Emma, dear," Grace began, her voice gentle but resolute, "I want you to know that I've decided to take a stand. I can't allow David's behavior to continue, not toward you or anyone else in this household. You've brought so much light into our home, and I won't let his impossible standards extinguish that." Emma felt a surge of emotion, gratitude for Grace's support, anxiety about the confrontation to come, and a flicker of hope that things might change for the better. As Grace turned to leave, she paused at the door. "Remember, Emma, you're not just an employee here. You're part of what makes this house a home. Never doubt your value." With those words, Grace left to prepare for David's return, leaving Emma to ponder the turbulent waters ahead. The coming days would test not only Emma's resilience but also the very foundation of the Thompson household. In that moment of uncertainty, Emma felt a connection not just to Grace and the unfolding drama of the Thompson family, but to anyone who has ever faced the challenge of standing up for what's right in the face of intimidating authority. It was a reminder that every story of personal growth and courage, like Emma's, resonates with the experiences of countless others. As the story of Emma, Grace, and David continues to unfold, one can't help but wonder, what challenges lie ahead? How will this conflict reshape their lives? And what lessons might we all learn from their journey? If you're finding Emma's story compelling and want to see how she navigates these turbulent waters, make sure you're following along. Each part of her journey brings new insights and unexpected turns that you won't want to miss. The tension in the Thompson mansion had been building for weeks, a powder keg waiting for a spark. That spark came on a chilly December evening, as the household prepared for an important charity gala. Emma had spent the entire day ensuring every detail was perfect. The silverware gleamed, the floors shone, and the decorations struck a balance between elegance and warmth. She was just putting the finishing touches on the floral arrangements when David stormed into the foyer, his face thunderous. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, gesturing wildly at the decor. "I specifically said minimalist and modern. This looks like a Norman Rockwell painting threw up in here." Emma felt her heart sink. She had followed Grace's instructions to the letter, creating a welcoming atmosphere that would put the gala attendees at ease. Before she could respond, Grace appeared at the top of the stairs, her eyes flashing with a rare anger. "Enough," Grace said, her voice quivering with emotion. "I told Emma to decorate this way. This is our home, not a sterile museum." David whirled to face his wife. "This isn't just our home, Grace, it's a reflection of my success, my reputation. Everything has to be perfect." "Perfect," Grace repeated, descending the stairs with measured steps. "Is that what you call this? A house where warmth and love are sacrificed on the altar of your ambition?" Emma stood frozen, watching the confrontation unfold. She had never seen Grace so angry, nor David so defensive. "My ambition has given us everything we have," David retorted. "This house, our lifestyle, everything you enjoy." Grace's laugh was bitter. "Everything I enjoy? David, when was the last time we enjoyed anything together? When was the last time this house felt like a home and not a showcase?" The argument escalated, years of pent-up frustration and resentment pouring out. Emma wanted to disappear, to give them privacy, but she was rooted to the spot, an unwilling witness to the unraveling of the Thompson marriage. "I can't do this anymore," Grace finally said, her voice breaking. "I won't live in a house where appearances matter more than feelings, where our employees are treated like machines instead of people." David's face was a mask of shock and anger. "What are you saying, Grace?" "I'm saying I'm leaving," Grace replied, a strange calm settling over her features. "I'll stay with my sister until we figure things out." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma felt as if she was watching a movie, unable to believe this was really happening. David's voice, when he finally spoke, was cold. "If that's what you want." Grace turned to Emma, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "Emma, dear, I'm so sorry you had to witness this. None of this is your fault. You've been wonderful." As Grace moved to leave, David called out, his voice strained, "The gala starts in an hour. What am I supposed to tell people?" Grace paused at the door, looking back with a mixture of sadness and disbelief. "That's what you're worried about. Tell them whatever you want, David. I'm sure you'll find a way to make it look perfect." With that, she was gone, leaving behind a stunned silence. Emma stood there, her mind reeling. She looked at David, unsure of what to do or say. His face was a storm of emotions, anger, confusion, and something that looked almost like fear. "Mr. Thompson," Emma began hesitantly, should I cancel the gala?" David seemed to snap out of his daze at her words. "Cancel? Absolutely not. We will proceed as planned. This changes nothing." But everything had changed, and they both knew it. As David retreated to his study, slamming the door behind him, Emma was left alone in the foyer, surrounded by the decorations that had sparked this final confrontation. She moved on autopilot, making last-minute adjustments, her mind still trying to process what had just happened. Grace, who had been her friend, her confidante, her anchor in this demanding household, was gone, and Emma was left behind, facing an uncertain future in a house that suddenly felt colder and emptier than ever. As the first guests began to arrive, Emma plastered on a professional smile, playing her part in the charade of perfection that David insisted on maintaining. But inside, her heart ached for Grace, for the warmth that had been driven from the house, and for herself, suddenly adrift in a situation she never could have anticipated. The gala proceeded smoothly on the surface, with David playing the role of gracious host to perfection. If the guests noticed Grace's absence, they were too polite to mention it. But Emma, moving silently through the crowd with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres, could see the strain in David's eyes, the tightness in his smile. As the last guest departed and Emma began the arduous task of cleaning up, she couldn't help but wonder, what would tomorrow bring? How would the household function without Grace's gentle presence? And where did she, Emma, fit into this new, fractured reality? Little did Emma know that Grace's departure was just the beginning of a series of events that would challenge her in ways she never expected, forcing her to confront her own values, ambitions, and capacity for resilience. As she turned off the lights in the now silent mansion, Emma steeled herself for whatever lay ahead, unaware that her greatest test was yet to come. In the days following Grace's departure, the Thompson mansion fell into a state of eerie quiet. David buried himself in work, leaving early and returning late, barely acknowledging Emma's presence. Emma moved through her duties like a ghost, the absence of Grace's warmth and laughter leaving a palpable void. It was on a frosty Thursday evening, nearly 2 weeks after the fateful gala, that David broke the uncomfortable silence. Emma was polishing the silver in the dining room when he entered, his face a mask of controlled tension. "Ms. Williams," he began, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "I find myself in a difficult situation." Emma set down the polishing cloth, giving David her full attention. "Yes, Mr. Thompson." David paced the room, his usual confidence noticeably absent. "I have an important business dinner tomorrow night. Potential investors who could change the trajectory of my company." He paused, seeming to wrestle with his next words. "The thing is, I may have led them to believe that I'm still married." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. She opened her mouth to speak, but David continued hurriedly. "I know it's not ideal, but in my line of work, stability is crucial." The image of a happy family life, he trailed off, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Realization dawned on Emma. "Mr. Thompson, are you asking me to accompany me to the dinner?" "Yes," David finished for her. "To play the role of Mrs. Thompson for one evening." Emma felt as if the floor had dropped out from under her. This was so far beyond her job description, so ethically questionable, that her immediate instinct was to refuse. But as she looked at David, the great, powerful David Thompson, she saw something she'd never seen before: vulnerability. "I understand if you're not comfortable with this," David said, his voice low, "but I would consider it a personal favor, one that would not go unremembered." Emma's mind raced. On one hand, the idea of deceiving people made her deeply uncomfortable. On the other, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for David and, if she was honest with herself, there was a part of her, a part she wasn't entirely proud of, that was intrigued by the opportunity to step into a different world, if only for one night. After what felt like an eternity, Emma nodded slowly. "All right, Mr. Thompson, I'll do it." Relief flooded David's features. "Thank you, Ms. Williams. I'll have suitable attire delivered for you tomorrow. The car will be ready at 7 p.m. sharp." As David left the room, Emma sank into a nearby chair, her heart pounding. What had she just agreed to? The next day passed in a blur of nervous anticipation. Emma went through her usual tasks mechanically, her mind preoccupied with the evening ahead. When a sleek black dress and a pair of elegant heels were delivered to her room, the reality of the situation truly sank in. As she slipped into the dress that evening, Emma barely recognized the woman staring back at her in the mirror. Gone was the efficient housekeeper in her practical uniform. In her place stood a sophisticated lady, ready for a night of high-stakes business and subtle deception. David was waiting for her at the foot of the grand staircase, his eyes widening slightly as she descended. "Ms. Williams," he said, his voice tinged with something that might have been admiration, "you look suitable for the occasion." The drive to the restaurant was tense, filled with last-minute coaching from David. "Remember, you're Grace Thompson tonight. We've been married for 15 years. No children, but we've discussed it. You support my business endeavors but maintain your own interests in charity work." Emma nodded, trying to absorb all the information while quelling the butterflies in her stomach. As they pulled up to the upscale restaurant, David turned to her, his face serious. "Ms. Williams, Emma, I know this is far beyond what I should ask of you. I want you to know that I appreciate your willingness to help. Whatever happens in there, you have my gratitude." For a moment, Emma saw a glimpse of the man Grace had fallen in love with all those years ago. She offered him a small smile. "We're in this together, Mr. Thompson." As they entered the restaurant, Emma took a deep breath, steeling herself for the performance of a lifetime. Little did she know that this dinner would set in motion a series of events that would challenge her integrity, test her resilience, and ultimately change the course of her life forever. If you're finding yourself drawn into Emma's unexpected adventure and want to see how she navigates this high-stakes dinner, leave a comment with the number 1. Your engagement helps us know that you're enjoying this type of story and would like to hear more like it. Emma's journey is far from over, and your support could unlock even more twists and turns in her tale. The restaurant was a symphony of muted conversations and the soft clink of fine china. Emma followed David's lead, her heart pounding as they approached a table where 3 men in impeccable suits stood to greet them. "David, so good to see you," the eldest of the 3 said, shaking David's hand warmly before turning to Emma. "And this must be the lovely Mrs. Thompson. We've heard so much about you." Emma summoned her most gracious smile, silently thanking her years in the service industry for her ability to maintain composure under pressure. "It's a pleasure to meet you all," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. As they took their seats, Emma was acutely aware of the eyes on her. She was an imposter in this world of wealth and power, and the fear of being exposed thrummed through her veins. The man who had greeted them, Mr. Collins, Emma learned, sat directly across from her. His keen eyes seemed to miss nothing as he studied her over the rim of his wine glass. "So, Grace," he began, and Emma felt a jolt at hearing Grace's name directed at her. "David tells us you're quite involved in charity work. Any particular causes close to your heart?" Emma's mind raced. She knew Grace's passion for various charities, having helped organize several fundraisers at the mansion. "I'm particularly passionate about education for underprivileged children," she replied, drawing on her memories of Grace's enthusiastic discussions. "I believe that every child deserves the opportunity to reach their full potential." Mr. Collins nodded approvingly. "A noble cause indeed. And how do you balance that with supporting David's demanding career?" Emma felt David tense beside her. This was dangerous territory, the very heart of the conflict that had driven Grace away. She chose her words carefully. "It's all about mutual support and understanding," she said, feeling the weight of the irony in her words. "We each have our passions, and we strive to encourage each other's pursuits while maintaining our connection as a couple." David relaxed slightly, offering her a small nod of approval. As the evening progressed, Emma found herself drawn into increasingly complex conversations. The men discussed market trends and investment strategies, occasionally turning to her for her perspective on social issues that might impact their business decisions. To her own surprise, Emma found herself not just keeping up, but actively contributing. Her years of observing David's business dealings from the sidelines, combined with her own sharp intellect, allowed her to offer insights that seemed to impress the investors. It was during the main course that Mr. Collins posed the question that would change the course of the evening and potentially Emma's liabus. "Grace," he said, leaning forward with genuine interest, "you have a unique perspective, straddling both the world of philanthropy and high-level business through your relationship with David. In your opinion, how can companies like ours better balance the pursuit of profit with social responsibility?" Emma felt all eyes on her. This wasn't just small talk, it was a question that cut to the heart of the ethical dilemmas she'd been grappling with since taking on this charade. She took a deep breath, deciding in that moment to speak from her heart, consequences be damned. "I believe," she began slowly, "that true success lies in recognizing that profit and social responsibility are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they can and should be mutually reinforcing." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "A company that invests in its community, that prioritizes ethical practices and sustainability, builds not just a customer base, but a legacy. It's about seeing beyond the next quarter's profits to the long-term impact we have on the world." As she spoke, Emma forgot her nervousness, forgot that she was playing a role. She was speaking her truth, drawing on her own experiences and observations. Moreover, she continued, warming to her theme, in today's world, consumers are increasingly conscious of the ethics behind the products they buy. A company known for its integrity and social conscience has a competitive edge that goes beyond mere numbers. As she finished, Emma suddenly became aware of the silence that had fallen over the table. Had she overstepped, said too much? But then Mr. Collins broke into a wide smile. "David," he said, turning to a stunned-looking Mr. Thompson, "you've been holding out on us. Your wife is not just charming, but incredibly insightful. I dare say we could use someone with her perspective on our board." The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of compliments and increasingly friendly conversation. Emma felt a mix of elation at her successful navigation of the evening and guilt over the deception at its heart. As they said their goodbyes, Mr. Collins held Emma's hand a moment longer. "Mrs. Thompson, it's been a genuine pleasure. I hope we'll have the opportunity to continue our discussion in the future." In the car ride home, David was uncharacteristically quiet. Emma waited, tense, for his reaction. Finally, as they pulled up to the mansion, he turned to her. "Ms. Williams," he said, his voice a complex mix of emotions, I don't quite know what to say." He trailed off, seemingly at a loss for words. Emma held her breath, unsure whether to expect praise or rebuke. Little did she know that this evening had set in motion events that would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself, David, and the world she had entered. To our dedicated readers who have followed Emma's journey this far, we extend our heartfelt gratitude. Your investment in her story fuels our passion for storytelling. As Emma stands on the precipice of profound change, we invite you to stay with us. The most transformative chapters of her tale are yet to unfold, promising revelations and growth that resonate far beyond the pages of this narrative. Your continued engagement is the wind beneath our literary wings, propelling Emma's story to new heights. Let's see together where this journey leads. The mansion loomed before them, its windows dark and uninviting. Emma stepped out of the car, her mind still reeling from the events of the evening. She had just opened her mouth to bid David goodnight when his voice, cold and controlled, cut through the night air. "My study, now." Emma's stomach dropped. The brief moment of camaraderie they had shared in the car evaporated instantly. She followed David into the house, her heels echoing in the empty foyer. Once inside the study, David closed the door with a soft click that sounded ominous in the tense silence. He stood with his back to her for a long moment, his shoulders rigid. When he finally turned, his face was a mask of barely contained fury. "What exactly did you think you were doing tonight, Ms. Williams?" Emma blinked, taken aback by the anger in his voice. I was trying to help, Mr. Thompson, I thought." "You thought," David interrupted, his voice rising. "You're not paid to think, Ms. Williams. You're paid to clean this house and follow instructions. Tonight your instructions were simple. Play the role of my wife and keep a low profile. Instead, you took it upon yourself to captivate my investors with your opinions on business ethics." Emma felt a surge of indignation. "I was asked a direct question, Mr. Thompson. Was I supposed to sit there silently like some trophy wife?" "Yes," David shouted, slamming his hand on the desk. "That's exactly what you were supposed to do. Do you have any idea what you've done? Collins is now expecting to see more of you, to have you involved in future discussions. How am I supposed to explain your sudden absence?" Emma's mind raced. She hadn't considered the long-term implications of her performance. "I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson. I didn't mean to complicate things. Perhaps we could tell them the truth." David laughed bitterly. "The truth? That I paraded my housekeeper as my wife because my real wife left me? That would go over splendidly, I'm sure." His words stung, reminding Emma of her true place in this household. She straightened her spine, drawing on a well of strength she didn't know she possessed. "Mr. Thompson, I understand you're upset, but I don't appreciate being spoken to this way. I did what I thought was best in a situation I should never have been put in." David's eyes flashed dangerously. "You forget your place, Ms. Williams. You are an employee, nothing more. Your job is to do as you're told, not to think, not to have opinions, and certainly not to impress my business associates." Emma felt tears pricking at her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Is that really all you think of me? After everything I've done for this household, for you?" For a moment, something like regret flickered across David's face, but it was quickly replaced by cold resolve. "What I think doesn't matter. What matters is that your actions tonight have created a mess that I now have to clean up." He turned away from her, staring out the window into the darkness. When he spoke again, his voice was low and final. "I think it's best if we terminate your employment, Ms. Williams. Your presence here is now a liability I can't afford." The words hit Emma like a physical blow. She had known on some level that this charade couldn't last forever, but she hadn't expected it to end like this. "You're firing me because I did too good a job of pretending to be your wife." David didn't turn around. "You'll receive a generous severance package, of course. I suggest you use it to find employment far from here. I can't risk you running into Collins or any of the others." Emma stood there, shocked into silence. All the months of hard work, the connection she had formed with this house with Grace, all of it, gone in an instant. She wanted to argue, to fight for her position, but she knew it would be futile. David Thompson had made up his mind. "I see," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "May I at least stay the night? It's late, and I'll need time to pack my things." David nodded curtly. "You may have until noon tomorrow. I'll be out of the house. I expect you gone by the time I return." Without another word, Emma turned and left the study. She made her way to her small room, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. As she sat on her bed, still in the elegant dress from the dinner, the full weight of what had just happened crashed over her. She was jobless, soon to be homeless, all because she had dared to be more than what David Thompson thought she should be. The injustice of it burned, but beneath the anger and fear, Emma felt something else stirring: determination. As she began to pack her meager belongings, Emma made a silent vow to herself. This setback would not define her. Somewhere out there was an opportunity that would appreciate her for who she truly was, not just as a housekeeper, not as a fake wife, but as Emma Williams, a woman of intelligence, integrity, and untapped potential. Little did Emma know that her journey was far from over. The coming days would bring unexpected allies, new challenges and opportunities she could never have imagined. As she prepared to leave the Thompson mansion behind, Emma stood on the brink of a new chapter in her life, one that would test her resilience, challenge her beliefs, and ultimately lead her to discover her true worth. The sun had barely risen when Emma finished packing her belongings. She took one last look around the small room that had been her home for the past months, a lump forming in her throat. Despite the challenges, she had grown fond of this place, of the life she had built here. Now, it was all slipping away like sand through her fingers. As she dragged her suitcase down the grand staircase, a sudden thought struck her. She had to let Grace know what had happened. With trembling hands, she pulled out her phone and dialed the number Grace had given her for emergencies. Emma. Grace's sleepy voice answered on the third ring. Is everything all right? Grace, I'm so sorry to call this early, Emma began, her voice cracking, but I'm leaving the mansion. David fired me last night. What? Grace was fully awake now, her voice sharp with concern. Emma, what happened? As Emma recounted the events of the previous evening, the dinner, her unexpected success, and David's furious reaction, she found herself pouring out all the fears and uncertainties that had been building up inside her. Oh, Emma. Grace sighed when she had finished. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. If I hadn't left. No, Emma interrupted firmly. This isn't your fault, Grace. You did what you had to do. I don't know what I'm going to do now. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Then Grace spoke, her voice filled with determination. Come stay with me, Emma. My sister has plenty of room, and it will give you time to figure out your next steps. Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. Were you sure? I don't want to impose. Nonsense, Grace insisted. You're my friend, Emma. I won't leave you out in the cold. Besides, she added, a hint of her old warmth creeping into her voice, I could use the company. With a plan in place, Emma felt some of the weight lift from her shoulders. She left the mansion key on the kitchen counter, along with a brief, dignified note of resignation for David as she stepped out of the grand doors for the last time. She allowed herself one final look back. The mansion stood silent and imposing, bathed in the soft light of dawn. Emma squared her shoulders and turned away. It was time to move forward. Grace's sister's home was a cozy suburban house, warm and inviting in a way the Thompson mansion had never been. Emma spent the first few days in a daze, processing the whirlwind of events that had led her here. Grace was a constant source of support, listening to Emma's fears and doubts, and offering words of encouragement. It was on the fourth day of her stay that Emma received an unexpected call. The number was unfamiliar, but she answered, her curiosity piqued. Hello, is this Emma Williams? A deep, familiar voice asked. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She recognized that voice. Yes, this is she. Ms. Williams, this is Robert Collins. We met at the dinner with David Thompson last week. I hope you don't mind, but I got your number from David's office. Emma's mind raced. Why was Mr. Collins calling her? Had he discovered the truth about her identity? Ms. Williams, Mr. Collins continued. I'll cut to the chase. I was incredibly impressed by your insights at the dinner. Your perspective on the intersection of business and social responsibility is exactly what we've been looking for. I'd like to offer you a position at my company. Emma nearly dropped the phone in shock. I'm Mr. Collins, I'm flattered, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not. David's wife, Mr. Collins, interrupted, a hint of amusement in his voice. Yes, I'm aware of that now. It seems there was quite a bit of confusion that night. But that doesn't change the fact that your ideas were brilliant, Ms. Williams. Wife, housekeeper, or neither. I'm interested in your mind, not your marital status. Emma sat down heavily, her legs suddenly weak. You know I was the housekeeper. I made some inquiries after the dinner, Mr. Collins explained. I was curious about the woman who had so eloquently challenged my thinking. When I learned the truth, well, let's just say it made me even more certain that we need someone like you on our team. As Mr. Collins outlined the position he was offering, a role in corporate social responsibility, with the potential for growth, Emma felt a surge of excitement. This was an opportunity beyond anything she had ever imagined for herself. Of course, I understand if you need time to think it over, Mr. Collins said. It's a big step. No, Emma heard herself say, surprising even herself with her certainty. I mean, yes, I'd like to accept the position. After ending the call with Mr. Collins, Emma sat in stunned silence for a long moment. Then she burst into tears, not of sadness, but of relief, joy, and a sense of vindication she hadn't realized she needed. When she told Grace the news, the older woman enveloped her in a warm hug. Oh, Emma, I'm so proud of you, Grace said, her own eyes glistening with tears. You deserve this. You've always deserved so much more than being just a housekeeper. As the reality of her new opportunity sank in, Emma felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. She was stepping into a world she had only observed from the sidelines, a world of business meetings and corporate strategies, but she also felt a sense of readiness. Her experiences at the Thompson mansion, both good and bad, had prepared her for this moment. That night, as Emma lay in bed, her mind buzzing with plans and possibilities, she realized something profound. The path that had led her here, from loss and struggle to unexpected opportunities and challenges, had shaped her into someone stronger and more capable than she had ever imagined. She was no longer just Emma Williams, the housekeeper. She was Emma Williams, a woman ready to make her mark on the world. With this new chapter unfolding before her, Emma closed her eyes, a small smile playing on her lips. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time in a long while, she felt truly excited about what the future held. 6 months had passed since Emma had stepped into her new role at Collins Enterprises, and the world she now inhabited was a far cry from the polished floors and silent corridors of the Thompson mansion. Her days were filled with meetings, strategy sessions, and the exhilarating challenge of implementing socially responsible practices in a corporate environment. At first, the transition had been daunting. Emma had felt out of her depth, surrounded by colleagues with impressive degrees and years of experience, but she soon discovered that her unique background gave her a perspective that was invaluable in her new role. "You see things differently," Emma Mr. Collins had told her after a particularly successful presentation to the board. "You understand the real-world impact of our decisions in a way that many of us, isolated in our corporate bubble, often forget." Emma's initiative to partner with local education programs, providing internships and mentorship to underprivileged youth, had not only improved the company's image but had also led to an influx of fresh, diverse talent. Her ability to bridge the gap between corporate interests and community needs had quickly made her an indispensable part of the team. As she grew more confident in her role, Emma found herself thinking less and less about her time at the Thompson mansion. The pain and humiliation of her dismissal had faded, replaced by a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had led her here. A friendship with Grace had only grown stronger. They met regularly for coffee, sharing stories and supporting each other through the challenges of their new lives. Grace had finally filed for divorce from David and was rediscovering her own passions, volunteering at a local animal shelter and taking art classes. "You know," Emma Grace said one sunny afternoon as they sat in a quaint cafe, "I never thanked you properly." Emma looked at her, puzzled. "Thank me? For what?" Grace reached across the table, squeezing Emma's hand. "For showing me that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, to pursue what truly makes you happy. Watching you transform your life, it gave me the courage to do the same." Emma felt a lump form in her throat, touched by Grace's words. "We helped each other," she said softly. "I don't know if I could have made it through those first few weeks without your support." As for David, Emma had heard through the grapevine that he had faced some difficulties after her departure. The story of his deception had eventually come to light, causing a temporary setback in his business dealings. But last she heard, he had begun to reevaluate his approach, perhaps finally understanding the value of authenticity and ethical practices in business. On a crisp autumn morning, almost a year to the day since she had first arrived at the Thompson mansion, Emma stood before a crowd of eager college students. She had been invited to give a guest lecture on corporate social responsibility, and as she looked out at the sea of young faces, she felt a surge of emotion. "Your path may not always be straight," she began, her voice clear and confident. "You may face setbacks, moments where you feel lost or undervalued. But remember this, every experience, every challenge is shaping you for something greater." As she shared her story, omitting names but speaking honestly about her journey from housekeeper to corporate executive, Emma saw the spark of inspiration in the students' eyes. She recognized in them the same hunger for opportunity, the same determination to make a difference that had driven her forward. Concluding her lecture, Emma smiled warmly at her audience. "The future is yours to shape," she said. "Embrace every opportunity, learn from every setback, and never forget the power of perseverance and integrity." The applause that followed was thunderous, and as Emma stepped down from the podium, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She had not only transformed her own life but was now in a position to inspire and help others do the same. That evening, as Emma sat in her comfortable apartment, reflecting on the incredible journey of the past year, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She thought of the scared, uncertain woman who had stood before the Thompson mansion all those months ago, and marveled at how far she had come. Her phone buzzed with a message from Grace. "Dinner next week. I want to hear all about your lecture." Emma smiled, typing out a quick reply. As she set her phone down, her gaze fell on a framed quote on her wall, one that had become her personal mantra: "Your past is a lesson, not a life sentence." With a contented sigh, Emma turned to her laptop, ready to work on her next project. She was no longer defined by her job title or her circumstances. She was Emma Williams, resilient, compassionate, and ready to make a difference in the world. As Emma's story comes to a close, we can't help but reflect on the power of perseverance and the unexpected ways life can transform us. Her journey from housekeeper to corporate leader is a testament to the potential that lies within each of us, waiting to be unleashed. We hope Emma's tale has resonated with you, perhaps even inspiring you to view your own challenges in a new light. If her story has touched you, moved you, or sparked a reflection on your own life's journey, we'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts and reactions are the lifeblood of storytelling. fueling the creation of more inspiring narratives. Feel free to share your impressions in the comment section below. Your engagement, whether it's a simple like, a share with someone who might need a dose of inspiration, or subscribing to see more stories like Emma's, is what drives us to continue crafting these tales of human triumph. Remember, every story of perseverance, every tale of unexpected success has the power to light the way for others. Thank you for being a part of Emma's journey and for allowing her story to become a small part of yours.